So your life is podcasting. I'm looking forward to getting into it. This is a native tongue for me and obviously for you. So it's great to meet you. And I'd love to begin our journey into podcasting by asking about the pandemic, which is when podcasting really blew up. And I'm
Hmm.
curious how you survived that time period. Because 4 years ago at this time, we didn't know how long it was going to last. And I know Canada was under some really stringent, like different restrictions than the rest of the world. So how did you get through it and how did it change the way that you do your business and live your life now?
Hmm. Yeah, I guess an interesting thing about being in the podcasting industry was that we were one of the businesses I think that benefited from that. I don't want to use that word lightly because obviously it was a very serious situation, but the fact of the matter is for us, we didn't suffer. We actually had one of our best years ever that year because of what you alluded to. A lot of people started podcasts that year. We were sitting inside for a lot of it, wondering what to do next and looking for some form of connection. And podcasting seemed to fill that void for a lot of people. And it's a great tool to use anyway. If you're an entrepreneur, say with a business, it's a great marketing tool to have. But people do them for a variety of reasons, including just a hobby or just networking, that type of thing. So during COVID, yeah, everybody was starting podcasts, and we happened to be there for a while already in that space. So we definitely saw an uptick of business, and we've always been remote, so it didn't change a whole lot for us in terms of how we worked or how things looked. Like myself and the other people at the company, we're always sitting inside alone working. We're used to that. So yeah, in that way, it was just a busier time. And I know a lot of people kind of struggle with that too. One of the reasons they started podcasts was to have a more of a connection in their life while they were stuck at home. But that was another interesting point that I just work from home by myself every day, all day. So it was hardly noticeable to me,
Yeah.
that things were any different.
So let's get to the heart and soul of exactly what you do in podcasting. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids, let's say third graders. It's career day. And one of the kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do
Hmm.
you answer that child?
Yeah, well, I'm assuming that most kids probably have more technical knowledge these days than some of the adults that I would run into because I often say I work in podcasting and they go, well, what is that? So
Yeah.
believe it or not, there are still people out there who don't even know what podcasting is. So let's assume that the kids know what a podcast is. We help people produce their podcasts. So a lot of entrepreneurs we work with, people who are busier, they're looking to use a podcast as a marketing tool to hopefully generate revenue, make connections, that sort of thing. And we take all of the back end production work off of their hands. So when you're doing a podcast, there are a variety of steps. Of course, if you're doing interviews, you've got to find the guests, you've got to schedule them. If you're doing them solo, well, you just got to have your topic ideas, maybe some preparation and do the recording. But the way we believe things should work, and I think is optimal for a business owner, is you should kind of stop there. You should focus on the guest aspect or the portion, doing the recordings. From there, everything else can be outsourced. And that's where we come in. So there's an editing portion of a podcast. So tidying up the sound, cutting out unnecessary parts, things like that in audio and video. We start there. There's a show notes portion. So that's writing the written summary that you see show up in your podcast app. We do that. Creating some clips for social media. We do that. And we can do a couple other things as well, like graphics, transcripts, and then finally uploading the show to the various platforms. So Apple, Spotify, YouTube, we do all that. So essentially, we can cover that entire workflow. So to the host, they save a ton of time. They just do the recording, send it to us, kind of hands off from that point on, and they can get back to spending their time on what's most important in their business. So that's our huge thing that we help people with, is saving them time, but helping them make a podcast, get the benefits from it, but without all the hassle that could come about if they had to do it on their own.
What's the first podcast you got hooked on that you started listening to?
That's it's a great question. I've always been interested in radio, so I think I was listening to some radio shows like, I don't know any example. I was just always fascinated with radio, like local talk shows, that sort of thing. So I think before podcasting even became really a thing as people know it today, like I was listening to stuff from all over the world, like when internet radio came out, different things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's not like one memory that sticks out as the first show, but I saw a lot of commonality, or I see the connection now between, say, what was radio back in the day and what has become podcasting now. You know, people think it's relatively like a new format to have some people sit down and talk, but this was on the go for a long time before we got to what we're at right now.
So let's dig back to the beginnings. Let's take you back to the third grade. What did you want to be when you were that age? What was your dream?
First of all, I wanted to work as like a power line technician, so working with the electrical grid. So that was kind of nerdy enough, but I did always have this fascination with audio and like hi-fi systems and music and that sort of thing. So like literally from, I think, whenever I could start to actually have, I had a brain to think about things or explore things. I was into wires and that sort of thing, like CDs. You know, I was messing around with those, breaking my parents' stuff when I was a little kid. So yeah, from literally that early of an age, I was interested in audio in some form. And that continued for my whole life. And then when it came time to make a decision about what I should do with post-secondary, because I just assumed you had to do that, I went to college for audio engineering because I just basically thought, well, I've been doing this my whole life. I kind of know it already, but I think you're supposed to have a piece of paper on the wall or something to formalize what your knowledge is. So that, you know, from me at that young age eventually led into that college experience, and from there I ended up, you know, where I am today. But it's been with me my whole life in some form or another.
So talk to me a little bit about this evolution to where you're at today. Did you start doing podcasting or have you kind of focused more on the back end? Kind of give me an idea of how you evolved to this point where
Hmm.
you're taking care of podcasts and putting the client at ease.
Hmm. I've always been a behind the scenes kind of guy. So once I was old enough, you know, we used to DJ, we would do the AV at school, that type of thing. I liked working behind the scenes, so it's not really surprising that I kind of ended up in that role. So I went to college, was done that audio engineering program, and from, you know, in the school they give you a bit of experience with a whole bunch of different fields like film, live concerts. You're not going to learn everything there, but you're going to know enough to get started and see where you want to orient yourself and what you want to do. So after that, I was dabbling in a few different things. I worked at a bar, working with bands. I was doing some freelance voiceover stuff. I worked with some musicians and was trying to figure out like where exactly do I want to end up. And I, I, it's funny because you would think like when you associate podcasting, you think of the people who are out front, but um, through all of that, I ended up really working for myself, first of all. Music with other musicians, I felt that this wasn't for me. They're too high maintenance, and I'm not dissing musicians. It's an interesting industry, but it was like a lot of long hours. There's no money, so I said, okay, I'm not doing that right now. Maybe I'll be in L. I could be in LA someday as a record producer, but like not right now. So anyway, I had been doing some voiceover work online. I started on this freelance website, and you made money. Like it was crazy. I got money coming in my bank account from the internet. It was the first time I ever experienced that, and I really liked that. I liked working for myself. I liked the hustle at the time, just like, you know, coming home at the end of the day and getting back into work. So that was cool. And I thought, how can I make more money doing this? And had this audio engineering knowledge. I saw podcasting was a thing. It was talking 2014, 2015, so still relatively early. A lot of people trying to get into it and not really knowing anything about it. So fortunately, I was able to learn a lot along the way and share that. But that's where it was originating. I wanted to continue to be independent and saw that opportunity to make money on my own. And so I got into podcasting. That was going pretty well. Eventually wanted to travel a bit, so I shifted away from voiceover, where you kind of need a studio to be, you know, it needs to sound good, that type of thing. And podcast editing I could do from anywhere. So I went down that path, and it just got busier and busier, and that's kind of how I ended up where I am now. Just things grew from there, but that was the origin of where it all started. It wasn't really on purpose.
Yeah.
It was just there. It was a great opportunity. I like working for myself, and just, yeah, everything lined up and felt good about what I was doing.
I saw a stat recently where it was almost like 90 something percent of podcasts don't make it. They don't last past like a 3 month period or something. Is that true? Is it that high?
There are a few different numbers floating around there that I haven't really been able to verify myself, but it seems from my experience that they are probably pretty close. I think the stat you're thinking of is like 90% don't make it past 3 episodes or something.
Yes.
And then there's another large percentage that don't make it past 20.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is interesting to think that people would go through all that trouble to start a podcast and then just give up after a few episodes. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know. I I tell people if you're not going to at least commit to hanging in there for a year, don't even start because
Yeah.
it's literally a waste of time.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I agree. So, who's been a hero for you? Who's been an inspiration for you, whether in your personal life or in your career?
That's a great question. Um, Everyone would say like their father. I always look up to 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 my dad. Although we have taken say different paths in life, he didn't necessarily do what I am doing in terms of being independent and kind of going down the path less traveled. That's probably like the opposite of what he would suggest.
Uh,
But he was always a great role model to us, me and my brother, in terms of just how he worked hard for the family and cared about us. So that was a big one. And my brother inspires me too. We're pretty similar in our terms of thought. So yeah, I don't know if you would call him a role model, but it's a good inspiration for
yeah.
sure. We work together, so kind of being able to work next to him is great. But yeah, um, like seeing, I guess, knowing that we're both able to benefit from this business that we've built is really cool, and that's been like a big motivator for me to keep this going.
So, speaking of podcasting and getting kind of in the dreamy realm of podcasting, if you could interview one person alive on the planet, who would you love to sit down and talk to for a little bit?
That's a great question. I've always been interesting when it comes to celebrities. Like, you typically think of someone that's crazed about meeting their favorite celebrity or something like that, or who would you want to see in a concert? Like mine have always been a little odd. Like I wouldn't have thought it's not a celebrity that I would want to sit down with. It might be like someone, just some random person behind the scenes, or like someone that I know. That's like not a traditional celebrity, I guess, in that sense. Who would I want to sit down with? Who's alive? That's a that's a good one. Um,
I
who?
like that answer though. It's an unconventional, but it's cool because it's sometimes, I mean, it's like if we had the wherewithal, it'd be fun to go talk to like our great grandparents. Like,
Mm,
what brought you to this country, or what made you do this, or how did those kinds of things that aren't like,
hmm
you don't have to sit down with Matthew McConaughey. You don't, it doesn't have to be a celebrity that we already know a lot about. If you really wanted to listen to it, you could find an interview. But it's good to
hmm
kind of preen into your own life and find things and maybe connect the dots. Because that's the thing about being alive is that we have all these little mysteries that we're trying to figure out all the time, you know?
hmm
And ancestors are a big part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough to be put on the spot with that question. I don't know who it would be specifically. Um, this is the way my mind works. I can't like come up with answers. I need to sit down and think and research and like look through all my history. I would say that it would be someone who has shown bravery. There's a lot of people out there that they're kind of I don't know, standing up for what they believe in, and when a lot of other people would kind of sit back and just be silent, they would say put their life on the line to speak out. And I really admire that in people. People who just seem fearless, and they're the leaders that step up to say rally people around a cause or something, or that type of thing. So it'll be someone like that. I wish I had a better answer, but I think I'm gonna have to make a list of like my top 5 people. So then when
Yeah.
when I get this question, I'm gonna
Yeah.
have a great answer next time.
I remember as a kid seeing that guy in front of the tank in Tiananmen Square. And that would be an interesting interview to talk to someone like that because that took a lot of courage in that
hmm
level of, China at the time and what was going on. Those kinds of people would be fascinating to see what really got them to the point. because he was just the guy with the briefcase, just a disgruntled guy like everybody
Hmm.
else, and he decided to step out there. Um, so let me ask you this: you clearly love what you do. You've been doing it for a while. What is it that gets you up every day to do this work? I mean, you're helping clients, but you're furthering what I would consider a creative art form, a modern creative art form. And you're also evolving too in your skill level with what you're
Hmm.
doing as an entrepreneur and an audio guy. What is that collective gas in your tank every day you wake up?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't even understand it fully sometimes. I just feel that I'm very motivated to work and succeed. And, there'll be people out there that'll tell you that that's the wrong way to live life. You should just be very minimal. And I am minimal in terms of what I own and buy. But yeah, I just feel that drive, and that's the way I want to live. Is like money is not everything, but it's certainly a part of it. Just because I think a lot of how I feel centers around freedom. That may be the best word that I could use to sum up to answer the question of what drives me. Because I don't want to have a boss again. I don't want to work for anyone else. I don't want to be subject to like whatever it could be, COVID, food shortages. I don't like the idea that anyone can have control over my life. So it's very important to me, not necessarily that I need to make a bunch of money to buy fancy stuff, but it's very important to me to be very independent and free and protected from whatever there might be. I don't know if that sounds too crazy or out there, but that's really what it is at the end of the day. I'm not motivated by having flashy stuff to post online or anything like that. But, helping people too is great. I love seeing other people succeed. I like people. I like networking and talking and forming relationships. But if I if I had all of my needs covered in life and I knew I was safe and we had plenty of wealth in the family, I'll probably just be more relaxed and sit around. Maybe I wouldn't work this hard, but that's a big one for me for sure. Like I mentioned, my brother works with me as well, so I take that to heart. The fact that he's relying on my business for his livelihood as well, so that's a big motivator. Family, but yeah, I think that's freedom is definitely a big one.
That's the number one answer when I ask jazz musicians why they love jazz. It's always freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to it. And there's a myriad of ways that you can define that, and that is the beauty of podcasting though, is that, we like, especially when I was growing up, there was only like three or four networks, five networks that they were the mouthpiece of anything that you would see interview.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
and there was radio stations here and there, but I think that's the beauty of this, because the beauty of podcasting is if it's relevant and it's good, people are going to watch it. The numbers are going to go up. You
yeah,
don't have a lot of people don't have the advertising budgets. I mean, big celebrities do, but we're talking about just aggro kind of people out there doing it because they love doing it. And that's the beauty of this. It's a true democratic process. If it's good,
hmm,
it's going to be lauded. If it's not, it's going to be one of those in that stat that go away after 20 episodes. It's
yeah.
fine.
It's interesting how that whole everything has flipped on its head since back then. Because I having grown up through that period, I kind of have an affinity for the time when there were fewer outlets. And that's not necessarily a great thing, but it was a simpler time. I feel like when I was doing, some internet radio stuff back in the day, there wasn't a million or like unlimited choices of content. So you kind of had a chance if you got into that, whether you started a station or got a show somewhere. Once you worked your way up to that, you kind of had an audience waiting there, which was pretty cool, I think. I like that. Now we're all empowered to make content and the best rises to the top. And that's also really cool. But like I said, having grown up through that period, I think back on it fondly where you just didn't have that much selection.
Yep.
You turn on the TV and there was 50 or 60 channels and that was it. And you
Yep.
could like wrap your head around that. Nowadays, there's infinite content.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
find whatever you want out there. And it's maybe I guess today's generation or the next generation won't really feel that challenge, but to me it's like wow, it's overwhelming. I
Yeah.
don't even know what to go look at. There's just too much.
I agree. I totally agree. So, what's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Hmm. What I've gotten or maybe kind of like learned, came to the conclusion. Um, yeah, that's another great one because I mentioned like it's hard to think of stuff. I would like write notes and I'll just write notes and notes and notes and I have tons of them and I'll review them sometimes just to make sure that I'm living by this type of advice or little things that I've heard over the years because I feel like I have to remind myself. The best I think that I've come across or concluded through various people saying it is really not being afraid to be yourself. I mentioned earlier that I like the idea of someone who's brave to put themselves out there. That's a big one. I think it's easier said than done sometimes, but being you is what allows other people to opt in or out of your life. If you are not going to show who you really are, you can't expect to meet and connect with the best people out there. So, yeah, that's been a tough one for me because I know it at heart to be yourself and be authentic. People really want that, but you still might go up to a crowd or meet someone and you're not really actually being yourself. You know that you should and you're trying, but it's the real magic comes when you are able to just be completely you
Yeah.
and not care what people think of you, not be afraid of being judged. It's like here I am, and that's such a magnetizing quality in a person. So if I was to kind of boil everything down to one great piece of advice that I every day wish I could live by better, and I've learned would be that just to be yourself.
So
It
of
sounds
all,
like so generic, but that's
no,
really it's
you're
huge.
right. Yeah, authenticity is huge. So of everything that you've done and evolved into at this point in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Hmm. I don't know if I would say it's a specific thing. I would say I'm proud of the person I've become. We're all a culmination of everything that we've learned in life and our different experiences and the advice that we've received and chose to live by. So I'm very proud of that. And none of us are perfect. I still am constantly striving to become a better person. There's things that frustrate me. But the fact that I was able to build this little business for myself and my family, I'm very proud of that. The lifestyle I've been able to live, which again is not like a life of luxury, just being free and kind of being my own boss. That's a big one. And I used to be a really, really shy, awkward person growing up as well. Like, didn't have many friends, and that was always a little tough. Something that I wanted to fix, and that's thanks to the business. Something I've been afforded as well is that freedom of kind of traveling a bit. I was able to get out there and socialize and kind of break through this like not knowing how to speak to people and being shy, all this stuff. Like, I feel like I'm myself, I'm a work in progress, and been doing a lot of, I've spent a lot of time trying to work on that, myself, the business, and everything. So, just life in general and who I am today, I think I would say I'm most proud of because I know I've come a long way. I want to continue, but that's like that's what I work on is myself. So I can't really say other than that I'm very proud of that because that's like my life project is me.
So let's get to the crux of you. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone around you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I am an interesting person. I'm not for everyone. Something I've thought over the years is like, why can't I just be normal? Because for so many people I have observed, and a lot of people wouldn't think of this. If you are just let's call it a normal social person, and you never have to think like, how do I make friends, or that kind of thing. If you're not thinking about it, then yeah, you just wouldn't even realize what some people are going through. So for me, I've observed and thought about this a lot more than the average person, and I've definitely that question has crossed my mind, like who are you, or like what is it about you that is appealing or not appealing to people. So how would I describe me? It's a tough question. I think one of the things that frustrates me is day to day it can vary. Like one day I'm very confident, outgoing, and able to like just connect with people, and it's great. And other days I don't want to speak to anyone. I don't feel like it. I feel like if I'm talking to people, they're thinking like this guy is crazy. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
so that
get it.
inconsistency has been something that frustrates me. But yeah, I hope people say that I am kind of bold and not afraid to say what's on my mind, which I really appreciate. Uh, I don't necessarily think that I always conform to what society expects of a person, but I want that. I want to be a little out there and not afraid to just be me. So yeah, I'm funny in certain circles, but not to everybody. So yeah, I guess some people would just like anyone. Some people are going to think I'm great. Some people are going to think I'm strange and not not for them, and that's fine. But yeah, I don't really fully understand who I am, but I like that idea of just like that guy is brave. He says what's on his mind, and to some people maybe I'm pretty cool, and other ones that guy not for me, and I'm
I
okay
dig it.
with that.
That's cool. So, man, if anyone wants to reach out, hire you, learn more about what you're doing, any of the good business, where do they go?
Hmm. Easiest place would be eastcoaststudio.com. Everything about what we do is on there, and my social media and all those things. I'm always happy to connect. Uh, really enjoy doing these interviews. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Joel, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Keep doing the great work, man. It's good to, it's always good to feel like you can get in the soup and talk about podcasting and it's not making somebody look off into the distance. So it's good.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. I really appreciate your insightful questions as well. I haven't been doing these interviews that long, so you gave me a lot to think about to go and prep some, some thoughts and some answers for. This is exactly why I'm doing this. So thank you.
Woodshedding. I love it, man. Cool. Thank you, sir. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Take care.